Hello, my fantasy football friends. Welcome to the Multiple First channel. Here we are with another Combine breakdown video. This is Tony Stasheks coming at you with another episode, joined by my boy Greg, the Velociraptor. What's going on, man?
Hey there, let's chop up some more combine today. Running backs
Yo,
and tight ends today, huh?
let's do it. Let's chop up some more Combine. So the running backs and the tight ends. The running backs are the kings of the measurables. Got to look at all that good juice coming from them. Number one running back on the top of everyone's board is, of course, Mr. Bijan Robinson from Texas, who notably did everything. He competed in all the drills. He has apparently been looking great in the interviews, too. Did Bijan Robinson do anything at all to hurt his draft capital here?
Nope.
Yeah.
Bijan was amazing. Uh, we're going to get into the overall impression of the week. I think let's just get Bijan out of the way. He was fantastic. The only thing for me is he might have played himself into even higher draft capital than he was going to get before. So I think he is the kind of almost can't possibly miss prospect we see very rarely. The kind of guy that is only a Saquon or Zeke. And there's a reason that in a great quarterback year, he's still the one-on-one. Right?
Is he the best football player in this draft? I mean, fantasy aside.
Oh,
because that's a comp I hear so much. I'm curious if you agree with that.
He might be and being hurt by positional value.
Yeah.
The cornerback Witherspoon has, I think, an argument. There's some. Drew Sanders, the linebacker from Arkansas, is at a low value position, but might be the best player.
Yeah.
Bijan's right there.
Sure.
Right there, and obviously, probably the best player at any position is Jalen Carter, but we've got the whole off-field stuff.
Yeah, I was sucked with him. Yeah.
So, not wanting to open up that can of worms. He's up there. Bijan is a fantastic player. He's going to go very high. He's your one-on-one. Moving on.
Yep. Number two running back by consensus is Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama. Gibbs had an interesting combine. He did not measure in terms of height, weight, where I wanted him to be personally. But looked good on the field, looked good in the drills. How'd you feel about Jahmyr?
Yeah, so I would have really felt good about him at 205.
Yeah, dude, I was thinking like 4 or 5 pounds could have been such a big difference for him. 199 sucks.
He was shorter than expected, which is good. Which is good because that makes him thicker.
Yeah,
it makes him thicker at the weight, and he's thicker in a way where you see backs at his BMI hitting, right? He's a smaller back. He is size-wise relatively comparable to the smallest backs we see hitting as bell cows, like CMC. He's like a tiny bit smaller than CMC. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that to me is maybe the best comp here is Christian McCaffrey, right? So he's a guy who could be your very poor man's Christian McCaffrey. Draft capital is going to say a lot, but look, he ran 4.36, right? If he was going to come in under 200 pounds, he needed to do that. And I kind of expected more like, I was really kind of hoping for like 204, 444.
Yeah.
Right. But so we got 199, 436. So like, that's okay. I don't mind that. And then the drills were great, and he's going to catch a lot of passes, but could he get shunted off into a gadget player role where he is a better football player than fantasy asset?
I struggle to see that. I think he's going to be a baller in the NFL. I think he's kind of in a solo tier by himself too. Probably some of the discussion is going to be depending on capital. Can the next guy on our list here ultimately, put himself next to or even above Jahmyr Gibbs? And I'm not sure he can. Maybe he can. But moving on to Zach Charbonnet here. Sharp looked good. He didn't blow any individual drill or event away, but he hasn't been. He's just been kind of a model of consistency and a well-rounded back in terms of size and collegiate production. Is Sharp still your 1-3 or your third running back?
Yeah, I mean, I think he came in at 214 where I expected more like 220, and then he ran 453, and I would have been okay with him running 4.6 at 220,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with him running 4.53 a little light. He is, I think he is closer to Plotter than Bell Cow, but than like Stud,
Sure.
But I think he is a bulk work running back, right? So like, uh, you can expect what you saw out of Damian Pierce last year.
Okay.
And you can expect him to get draft capital where somebody's going to give that work to him for 3 years and not replace it.
Yeah.
That's what I think. So I feel good about him. I feel like he's got as good a chance as anybody behind Bijan to enter that 20 touch a game group.
Yeah. You still see Sharp as being a like top 60 selection, second round pick.
Yes,
Okay. Yeah, I think so too.
I think second round, and I think he could be high second round. It wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me to see him get top 40, 40, 45 capital.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of like the top echelon as far as we see backs being fleshed out. Once we get beyond these three guys, Bijan and Gibbs and Sharp, I think things get way murkier and weirder. So there's just like a big broad tier of like 4 to 6 names, depending.
And even
Um,
I think it's a lot more than that. But
yeah,
the
it
other thing
is.
here
Yeah,
is a lot of these guys didn't test.
sure.
And so it was we come out of the combine murky, and that's why it's such a broad tier,
Yeah,
right? So we had a couple of guys test, we had a couple of guys not, a bunch of guys not test, and so we're stuck with some uncertainty. Guys who didn't test were included Sean Tucker, but some of these guys came in light and then didn't test, and that's scary, right?
yeah,
So you look at Sean Tucker, I wanted him heavier. Tajay Spears at least came in heavy. I
yeah. He
understand when
came in
these
big.
guys come in heavy
Mhm.
and then don't test, and then you expect them to test at their pro day at a lighter weight. That is okay to me. But when these guys come in light and then don't test, that really scares me. Sean Tucker is one of those guys. Zach Evans is another one of those guys. Izzy Abanaconda came in heavy and good, and like in a good way, and I expect him to run. So yeah, look, Izzy Abanaconda 5'10", 216, showed the weight. We expect him to run fast, and so it wouldn't surprise me if he ran at his pro day in a few weeks at 210 and put up a good number, and all of a sudden he's going to shoot up boards. Dwayne McBride is another guy who, yeah, so he also weighed in. He's got that 5'10", 210. This is one of the best first and second down backs in the class.
Yeah,
This is a guy who has a 1% target share in college, but he's a good ball carrier. And it wouldn't surprise me if he ran pretty well at his pro day. So on the other hand, you look at a guy like Zach Evans. I think he had a disastrous combine.
yeah. It's bad for him.
He was listed at Ole Miss at 215. So he comes in and weighs. He's taller than expected, weighs 202, and then doesn't run.
Yeah,
That's scary, man.
yeah,
This is a guy who, and he never had a backfield to himself. He never had a production profile. He's a 5-star recruit with a high, with some high per chance numbers. Sean Tucker is another guy who really struggled with the weigh in. We really thought we were going to get 215 here, and a track athlete, right? So
yeah.
weighing at 207, does that mean he's going to go run at a lower number than that, and then put up a time at his pro day? He is concerning. He's a guy who people are all over the place on him.
He was hurt though, right? He didn't run because of like a hamstring or something.
Oh,
Tucker.
I don't know, man.
I think he's been dealing with a lot of different injury. So not that it's good, but it's just be careful with
Okay,
him.
so yeah, there's some, and then another guy who I think really struggled in this tier is Devon A-Chain.
Hmm.
He did not do what I wanted him to see. He ran the fastest time, but we kind of knew he was going to do that. But I was really hoping to see 4.25, and we got 4.32, and I was really hoping to see 190 something, and we got 188.
5'8.5" is
Yeah,
so small.
it feels like a gadget player, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like Tariq Cohen like type upside. It's hard
Right.
to imagine this guy develops into I don't know, Brian Westbrook. Westbrook was a lot bigger than 188, but
So if he gets 55th overall, late second round draft capital,
yeah,
then that means that's a good team that's wanting to have like a home run hitter,
sure.
right? And you don't just
Someone
go,
they get the
oh, you
ball
got
to like
second
3 times. Yeah.
right? And you're gonna hate starting him. So he worries me a lot that he's going to be a draft capital trap.
Yeah.
And as a draft capital truther, I feel like I need to point at those guys. Um,
I love that, identifying those. That's a huge. You can't strictly draft on capital. I mean, I do advocate for it, but throughout these rookie drafts, you have to call your shots a little bit. I mean, you got to be willing to move players up a little bit ahead of capital. Some. So yeah, you got to call out who's going to go down.
well, let me give you two names who I think are going to get day 2 draft capital because they really help themselves. All right. The first name is Chase Brown, the running back out of Illinois. So Chase Brown, 5'9.5", 209. That's bigger than I thought. And then ran 4.43 and had some of the best explosion jump scores. Those jump scores are particularly valuable to me when I'm scouting running backs because those are the thigh and quad power metrics where you run through an arm tackle, right?
Yep.
And there's 40 yards and a touchdown after that arm tackle. You know what I mean? So this guy he weighed big and then ran well and then did well in the peripheral tests. The pass catching was okay. He really struggled in pass protection at the Senior Bowl, so I think he will be underdrafted for these numbers. But I still think he's going to get high third round draft capital, and I think he has the potential to be in contestation for that running back 4 situation, right after Charbonnet. And that's just a really nice combine for a guy who was very productive in college. And then the other name for me is Evan Hull. Evan Hull out of Northwestern. This is a guy with who came in being scouted as a little bit of a pass catching profile. But he 5'10", 209, and then ran a 4.47. He made maybe as much money as anybody in the running back group. I think he went from a 5th round guy to a 2nd, 3rd round guy. And I think he went from a 4th or 5th round, like a UDFA in your Dynasty league, to a late second round pick. Yeah, I think I'd rather have him than Zach Evans in a vacuum right now.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. He did perform really well. So one thing that always sticks out is who among all these guys can pass block. I mean, do we have grades on that? The combine didn't really tell us that much about it.
No, and it won't.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. I will note that one guy who gets plaudits for being the best pass blocker in the class is Roschon Johnson.
Yeah.
Who was the backup to Bijan Robinson. This is a guy who is interesting because analytics guys, their models all hate him because he doesn't get enough work. Mm-hmm. Because he's in the backfield with Bijan, and so you have to just make that a subjective whatever, right? He was big. He was 6 foot 219 and ran 4.58. That was good. It wasn't amazing, right? The vert was bad. The broad jump was okay, right? So it's okay. But yeah, this is a guy who has all the things you might have liked about Tyler Algier last year. And depending where he falls, he could easily be the Thunder half of Thunder and Lightning somewhere. And in fact, better than that because of the pass blocking, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He's an interesting prospect. He's someone who, is still in that 4th or 5th round Superflex draft area, but someone you could take in that spot and maybe get some starts out of him down the road. Like, he seems like one of those guys that if he, he's going to be drafted as a backup and be a backup for most of his career. That's what it looks like. But if he were to start in a week for a team, he could pull like a Dante Foreman, get a spot start or a stretch of starts, and get the rock like 25 times, and that team will feel confident giving him that kind of volume. If I'm rostering whatever tailback Johnson ends up backing up, I probably want Johnson as a safe handcuff. Yeah,
that's good. That's good. And then let's look at two names that came from very deep in the pack to have very good testing days. The first name is Tyon Evans from Louisville. Tyon Evans was, I think, the second biggest running back there. And so 5'9.5", 225.
That's
right.
Really big, yeah.
So this is a truck, and he ran 4.52, and that is a great speed score. And he profiles to me as a day 3 player of interest, where a couple of guys we liked in this day 3 player of interest range last year were Algier and Pacheco, and they both really hit. These are guys where if you get the profile matching some opportunity, you feel pretty good about them in the 3rd round of your rookie draft. Tyon Evans, man, you can imagine a team falling kind of in love with him in camp.
Yeah.
Like, as their linebackers don't want to see him in practice every day, right? Yeah. And you can imagine him falling into 10 rushing touchdowns on the right offense, right? And so there are a lot of things to like about him. And then the other name is Deneric Prince from Tulsa. Now, Evans I had heard of. Evans I was a little familiar with. I was really not familiar with Deneric Prince until I saw him pop up at the combine, and he measured in at 6 foot 216, and then ran a 4.41, and that is real good. That was the best speed score of the week. The guy with the best speed score of the combine last year was Isaiah Pacheco, right? So again, if I'm in a 5 or 6 round draft and this guy gets 6th round draft capital, this is the profile you want to pick up, where the ceiling is, some things click and the athletic testing plays up. Now, this is a guy who was not productive in college. I have to go look more at this, but this is just a name to watch to see if this name comes up 3 or 4 more times. And if it does, just start paying attention to it.
Yeah, hit the little star and put him on your watch list on Sleeper.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's tailbacks, man. So out of all these guys, is there anyone who you really separates himself for you as far as this whole 10-12 tier of dudes?
For me, Brown and Hull did the most for themselves, but I'm really waiting for the testing. I kind of expect that somebody like Spears or Ibanaconda is going to end up as my running back 4.
Sure.
But I cannot put them there having not run. They can have a disastrous run, and all of a sudden they're a 7th round pick, right? So some of these guys, if I were drafting today, Brown and Hull feel like guys who are pretty safe in day 3, day 2 to me.
But let the capital sort it out for you guys, as we always say. That's tailbacks. Hit some comments. Let me know what you think. Any tailbacks we didn't talk about that's your dude that we should be mentioning. I want to hear about it. I want to know who they are. We also got tight ends on the docket. Yeah. Tight ends. There was one specific tight end who blew the roof off the combine. Well, there's 2 that did it, but one guy, what's his name? Darnell Washington has come into my mind.
Darnell Washington
as being absolutely insane. If you're not familiar with him, Darnell Washington is the 6'7" freak from Georgia. He's 270 pounds. What did he weigh in at the combine?
He weighed in at 264. 6'7", 264.
If you're a Jelani Woods fan, you'll probably enjoy this guy.
Yeah. So, and he ran 4.64, and that big broad jump, and the splits were good. The shuttle was his short shuttle was really good. The 3-cone was good. And then he closed the receivers day with an absurd one-handed catch that made the rounds on Twitter. This is a guy who, like Roshan Johnson, all of the analytics guys, their models don't like him because he's playing with Brock Bowers and he is not getting targeted.
Yeah.
Right? He is the blocking tight end over
Sure.
on Georgia. But he is an athletic freak. He plays for Georgia. If you like Jelani Woods, you love Darnell Washington. He has so much going for him. The jumps were great. He looked very fluid as a mover for a 6'7", 262 guy. So yeah, he was among the top end tight ends. He was the one who tested really great. The number one tight end coming in, Michael Mayer from Notre Dame, was by far the slowest and smallest and least athletic of the major guys.
Yeah.
I think this tight end group really tightened up. Mayer ran 4.7 at 6'4.5", 249, which is okay. It's fine, right? It's fine. But so he just tested less athletic than Greg Dulcich, for example, right? So, and you've seen Dulcich in the league, right? So I think he's behind Greg Dulcich. He just tested less athletic than Trey McBride.
Yeah.
Right. So, just for some context, he's very safe. He's a really good blocker. He has great body control in the air. He has really good hands. The jumps weren't good either. The explosion scores weren't good. This was a very unathletic combine for Mayer. And because he's a good blocker, you can't trust the draft capital.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's hard to know what to do with Michael Mayer at this point. I can say I'm almost certainly not going to have very much stock in him. I mean, all things depend on cost, but there's tight ends I like more, and from his performance at the combine, it seems like he's probably gonna fall out of that first round territory. Some of these
I
dudes,
don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay.
What, you mean in the NFL draft?
Yeah, in the NFL draft.
No, I think he's just a good player.
Really?
He's just,
yeah.
He's a good player. He blocks really well, and he's a good receiver. You know what I mean? He's safe. If you guys are going, teams will take him because he's a two-way tight end in a way we don't care about as fantasy players.
I feel like I see him bumping down the mock boards, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And these guys like Washington's and Kincaid's are getting pushed up over him. So that's what I'm seeing. I don't know.
Well, Dalton Kincaid now, he skipped testing.
Yeah, he didn't do anything.
Weighed just 246. So
he might have had a similar day. Who knows?
Your tight end 1 had a bad day, and your tight end 2 weighed what we thought he was going to weigh. We knew he was light.
Yeah.
And skipped the testing. We know he's a good player. So draft capital is going to have to tell us a lot. And then your tight end 3 and 4, Darnell Washington comes in and crushes it. And then Luke Musgrave at 6'6", 253 runs a 4.61, and that also kind of crushes it. So I think when you look at your tight end landscape, it really has tightened up very much, right?
Yeah.
And we're gonna follow the draft capital a little bit. Those are very good testing numbers for Luke Musgrave, right? Vertical's 4 inches better than Washington. The broad jump's 3 inches better. Right now, he is an inch shorter and 9 pounds lighter, right? So, but similar athletic profiles, right? So for guys, again, Musgrave is another guy who the analytics guys don't like. He had 10 catches, less than 20 catches last year, right? Because they didn't throw the ball to tight end. But he is a very smooth athlete. I think all 4 of those guys will be off the board by the end of the second round. And then I think the 5th tight end in the group, Sam Laporta from Iowa, really played his way into this group. And you see at 4.59, he ran the 3rd best 40 of the group. He's 6'3", 245, which actually makes him a stouter player in some ways than Mayer at 6'4.5", 249. Thicker player, right? This is a guy who led Iowa in receiving 3 times. This is Iowa is the school that produced George Kittle, T.J. Hawkinson, Noah Fant, right? So this is a guy who seems like Michael Mayer for around less cost.
Yeah,
to me. He's my next tight end to scout. I haven't watched a lot of him, but I like what I've seen. Uh, I think this is a great tight end class, and he's one of the bargains of the class. And finally, we have a sleeper who posted an all-timey relative athletic score
Yeah, this
here
kid came out of nowhere.
in Zach Kuntz uh, from Old Dominion.
Yeah.
You see, he's from Pennsylvania. He
Yeah.
originally went to Penn State and transferred to ODU after he lost the job. We don't love that. He's a senior. We don't love that. But he is 6'7" and ran a 4.55. He's 6'7", 255 and ran a 4.55, and jumped out of the gym.
Yeah.
Like those are ridiculous jump scores and overall athleticism, even compared to a guy like Jelani Woods, who we liked so much last year. This is crazy, even relative to that. So
where put himself into like the 4th round? I mean, how high did
might
this
have.
kid jump himself up there?
I think this is another one where you just say, okay, I'm gonna let draft capital tell me some of what I want to see here, and I'm gonna let draft capital tell me most of what I want to see here. I guess is the way I'll see it. If he goes in the 3rd round, then I'm going to be very interested in him.
That seems high, though. I mean, he could. He seems like a player that like I'd be stoked to get on the waiver wire after my rookie draft.
Yeah,
but I'm probably not using
my
5th round pick
guy.
on him.
This is a taxi guy.
He seems like the next Dan Arnold to me. I'm going to be honest with you. But
yeah,
that's a player who had at least one really good season. So I don't know. Worth a stash in your taxi.
That's how I feel. But like follow the draft capital, right?
Yes.
So like we said at the running back position with Deneric Prince and Tyon Evans, like if you hear this name 3 times between now and the draft, and then he goes on day 2, right? Like alarm bells should be going off for you, and hopefully they're not going off for your league mates and then stealing a guy, right?
Yeah.
That's why we look at these guys. That's how we found some guys last year, like Daniel Bellinger, right? Like Cade Otton. Some of these guys we were profiling, who maybe some of our competitors weren't even looking at.
Yep. All right, man. Anything else at tight end you want to touch on? Who do you real quick, who is the best fantasy tight end of this whole class? Who's going to be the best for fantasy football? Like, who's going to catch the most passes, score touchdowns?
I think Dalton Kincaid is going to end up being the first tight end off the board in your dynasty drafts, and for good reason.
Yep. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And then probably Mayer second.
Yeah,
Mayer Washington, like
Mayer
close.
Washington. Yeah, I think you might arbitrage that by sliding down and taking the 3rd, and like just take the 3rd, 4th, and 5th guys off the board, right? And I do think Laporta is a value.
Yeah, he's someone who probably like a 4th round flyer or like 2 tight end league, someone to look at.
Yes, a high 4th round pick and put him on your taxi. I think you might have something.
I think
just like you did with Bellinger.
Something to throw out there too, and you're going to see that a lot this year, is handcuffing your tight end is underrated, I think, a little bit. So some of these guys, if they get drafted to a team that has an elite option, if the 49ers take a shot on a Washington, I don't know. It's good to handcuff your tight end with some of these higher value prospects, because you could see like a Goddard Ertz type deal where the backup plays so well, he earns a role in the field, and then eventually the veteran gets traded away or moves on, and all of a sudden you have a really good value that you didn't pay anything for to begin this process. So
and you have 2 tight ends.
Yeah, and you have 2 tight ends.
Right. So like exactly. So if one of these guys went to a situation behind Goddard, right? Like I could easily see that.
Yeah, I see that a lot mocked. The Eagles are linked to tight ends in like the 3rd and 4th round pretty regularly, and they should be, because they don't. All their options behind Goddard suck.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I could see. I could see the Vikings with Irv Smith moving on, going in and adding one of these guys.
Sure.
Right?
Totally.
Absolutely.
right, guys, thanks for tuning in. That's about 30 minutes. Appreciate it. Leave a comment. How are you ranking these tight ends? I'm curious to know, who do you got for fantasy football? Or is your favorite NFL team thinking about drafting a tight end? Who do you want them to pick? Yeah, thanks for stopping by, though, guys. Have a good one.